Today I'm cooking Memphis Dry Ribs, and this is how you make them. They're pretty easy. They don't take all day. It's not a low and slow thing. You don't really have to monitor the temperatures real close. You can probably cook this on a lot of different cookers, but this the Weber Smoky Mountain or the pit barrel cooker or a barrel drum smoker is set up pretty good for this kind of cook. I've lived in West Tennessee my whole life, so I was raised up on dry ribs, West Tennessee dry ribs. So it's a little different than a lot of people are used to cooking ribs, but if you just kind of follow how you do it, they turn out great. And I found that most people really like the Memphis dry ribs when sometimes they don't like the super saucy, super fall apart ribs. These have a little bite to them. There's not a lot of course they're dry, they're not covered in sauce, but I'm gonna show you how to do it. So traditionally these are cooked on just charcoal, but I like a little wood smoke, so I put a little bit of hickory in there. So those wood chunks there are hickory, and then I'm gonna put a good bit of charcoal over the top of that, and then I'm gonna dump a full chimney full of lit coals on top. We're going to leave no deflector, no water pan, no diffuser plate. It's just going to be ribs over the coals. Of course, you've got a good 3 foot or so, 2.5 foot of space between the coals and the grate. So that's how I'm going to cook them. I'm going to fill this up with some charcoal and get the ribs ready. So this is about a 3/4 bag of B&B. This is a 17-pound bag, and that's about 3/4 of that bag. That's more than I need for this cook. So I'm probably just going to top it off with some fully lit lump, because it's not going to affect the flavor any, but the flavor comes from the charcoal. So it has a charcoal flavor, and I like a little smoke, so I'm gonna add some wood. You can go straight charcoal, that's traditional, but this is the way I like it. So I got my ribs out of the pack, and I trimmed up just a little bit of the thick meat that's on the thick side. I just trimmed it down a little bit to make it a little more even. Took just a touch of little fat off, but not much. You can see I took kind of the end off of this to square it up. So minimal trim, but I don't like that big old thick piece of meat on this side, the fatty side of the rib. I just kind of take a lot of that off. And so now all you have to do is, I took the membrane off the backside and I already salted the backside. I'm gonna take some kosher salt, and I'm just gonna show you about how much to put on there. It's just a good amount, but not too much, because this is all the salt it's gonna get. My dry rub doesn't have the salt in it. So if you buy a Memphis style dry rub in a bottle from the store or online, you might check and see how much salt it's got in the rub, and then you can adjust the initial seasoning. So I just want to put a nice coat of salt on it all over. I would call that a medium coat, and that's it. I'm gonna let that sit while my coals get hot. You could let this go for probably an hour or maybe 2 hours in the fridge or something, but I don't do that. I make sure that it adheres good to the meat. Let it sit for a few minutes, maybe 20, and then on the grill we go. So other than salt, what you'll need is a dry rub. So this is the dry rub that I make, but and I'll put a description, a list of ingredients to make your own like I do. And this is a Memphis style barbecue sauce, and I'll list the ingredients to that too. But if you don't feel like making your own rub or your own barbecue sauce, you can order Rendezvous. That's the Memphis restaurant that sells their barbecue sauce and their dry rub. So this is very similar to what they serve. And then for the mop, I've got this. I added about 12 ounces of white vinegar, so I'm gonna add about 4 ounces of the barbecue sauce into that, and then a good couple of shakes of this rub in there and mix it up. So that's gonna be our mop. So So you can make all this yourself, save some money. But Rendezvous makes excellent barbecue sauce. It's one of my favorite for pulled pork and ribs. Their regular is great. Their dry rub is really good. But we can get pretty close to it with this recipe right here. So I've got my full chimney full of lump, and it's close. It's as close as it's gonna get because I'm tired of waiting. So we're gonna dump it. So I'm just gonna rake this around, kind of even those lit coals across the top. It's kind of nestling down a little bit. Oh, they're hot. Feeling that on my hands. So I'm going to leave this lid open for about 5 minutes or so, just to let everything get started, and come back when we're ready to throw the ribs on. So it's been about 5 minutes. You can see the white lump. I can smell the charcoal starting to catch down there. So we're gonna throw these on. I'm gonna put these on, and I can hear a little bit of a sizzle, so that's a good sign. I'm gonna put this on for a snack later. I'll eat that piece. So lid down, let it cook. About every 30 minutes we're gonna baste it, flip it, baste it, and let it cook about 30 minutes at a time. So this is a really good recipe for like a day you're out doing yard work. You're gonna be outside anyways. You can just kind of stop every 30 minutes or so and just come mop the ribs, flip them. And the temperature we're looking at is to keep it between 275, over 275, but I'm trying not to go over 325. So between 275 and 325 is going to be just fine with these. I don't even have my temperature ports in there. I'm not worried about what the temperature is exactly. The dome thermometer is going to be close enough for me. I'm going to try to hit about 300. Alright, I've just been hanging out right here at the smoker just the first few minutes. It's been 5 minutes with these ribs on. We're already almost to 300, so that's good. You can kind of see there's not a lot of smoke pouring out of the smoker. So I cracked the vent down a little bit. You can kind of see I just shut it just a little bit. I closed the bottom vents down about half, maybe a little more than half, and on all 3 of them. Now my back one on this side is got the little tape over 3 of the holes, so I've just got 1 hole. So I left it about halfway open. It's I've got it set up for my fan, but it doesn't seem to affect it too bad. But I'm gonna keep it kind of a little bit of an eye on it. But it looks like it's settling in right at 300, and 5 minutes on, that's great. So if it starts dropping, I'll just open the vents up a little bit. If it keeps climbing, I'll shut them down a little bit. That's just how you work these. Just kind of find the sweet spot. But I'm wanting to keep it around 300. A little up, a little below is fine. So let these cook a little while. We're at 30 minutes. It's still just a shade under 300 degrees. So I'm gonna open these bottom vents just a little bit. Check them out. So of course they're nowhere near done, but we're gonna give them a little baste with this sauce, and it's really thin. That's what we're looking for right there. I'm gonna flip them. So flip them and get the back side. Just give it a little mop. So it's a little mop. It's real thin. And close the lid and let them go another 30 minutes. So we've been cooking 2 hours. I've been flipping and mopping every 30 minutes or so. Just take a look. Oh yeah, it's getting some nice color on the back side there. So let's flip this over. See what we're doing on the other side. Oh yeah, some good color. These are almost done. Almost done. I'll give it one more mop, maybe give it another 20 minutes on that side. Let's take a look here. It's starting to come apart, so yeah, it's about there. Alright. So the ribs have been on almost 2.5 hours. Yeah, about 2.5 hours. So I think they're done. I flipped them one more time. But yeah, they got a good color going. Got a nice bend to them. They look like they're breaking apart there. Got a little pullback on some bones there. So we're gonna wrap them up and keep them wrapped up in the foil and hold them warm until we're ready to eat.